All right, I'm wearing my Drewski McGillicuddy merch here he sent me in case you didn't see my last video. And he reminded me here of Fruity Pebbles, so it's to, it's to cover up my red Coke eyes. So, all right, so I watched Psycho 2, 3, and 4 all in this pack. I've seen them all before, of course. But we're going to obviously focus on 2. I know they made 2 and 3 on Blu-ray, right? For like Scream Factory or something. I should pick those up because I love 2 and 3. But let's get into this. Now, I know a lot of you don't have time to sit through all of this shit. So I want to talk about something I find to be the most interesting thing about this film. This series is very interesting as a whole, by the way, as well. But let's talk about this one for a moment. Something I want to talk about, which I would usually save for the end because it is at the end. But I want to talk about it really quick here in the beginning because you might not be around at the end. So let's do it now. What I find super crazy interesting about this film is that it's never revealed who the killer actually is in this film. This is just kind of like Norman dealing with his past. Him trying his damnedest to get over, what he had done, and he had went through all this recovery, and he thinks he's a cured man, and he's got these people fucking with him, trying to get him to go crazy again so that he'll go back to jail because they think he should be in there for the rest of his life. He shouldn't get to be free. Even if he is cured, they don't care. They want him in there. Now, you could say that, his real mother, spoilers obviously for this whole film, is the killer, when she comes here at the end. But I don't know. Is it Norman? Is it Lila Loomis? Like, I think it's all up in the air. I don't think it's ever clearly stated anywhere in this film who's actually doing any of the killing in this movie. The old woman that comes to his house here at the end and claims to be his mother, which I am led to believe that technically is. And I know this is what I've talked about in the past, how this sequel would probably never fly today because it's like a huge twist on the already established, mythos or whatever you want to call it for a iconic character that was in a film that was directed by Alfred Hitchcock, this classic of classics. And they go and, probably the most prevalent thing about him in the movie is his relationship with his mother. And for them to change that's not actually his mother, that he has a legit mother out there, like a biological mother, and that she's just kind of been waiting in the wings the whole time. And that's a big pill for a lot of people to swallow, and I just don't think audiences today would. But that all being said, regardless of our times now, I don't know. This whole idea that she did the killings in this film, she's too damn old and frail, and this person has to move around. They have to be, pretty physically inept. And she's just not. And there is a scene where Norman is locked in the attic the entire time. Now, this is his house. He possibly could have gotten out of there and went down. But he's losing his mind throughout this film and doesn't really truly lose it until pretty much the end of the movie. That doesn't mean he didn't do it. But the fact that it's never clearly said if he did it, if she did it, if anyone did it, I find that fascinating. We have a slasher film with an iconic villain in it. It's never outright stated that he did it. In fact, it's implied that he didn't do any of it, but is never actually said. How many franchises can you tell me that happens in? Whether it be a Leatherface or a Michael Myers or anything. Because make no fucking mistake here, Norman Bates is as iconic as Michael Myers or any of these other guys. So yeah, it's weird. And there's other stuff that happens in the sequels as well. So we'll talk about those. But I just wanted to get that out of the way in the beginning here. because I don't see any proof that anyone's for sure did it. We got Tom Holland here, who wrote this. The guy who, not the kid who plays Spider-Man now, the guy who wrote Child's Play and Fright Night, horror classics like that. And the director of this also did a bunch of horror with Patrick, Road Games, Cloak and Dagger, which is not really a horror movie, it's a science fiction kind of thing. Well, kind of. No, I haven't seen Cloak and Dagger in so long. Now I'm forgetting. Fuck, I gotta remember. And then Link, that Bigfoot movie. And so this starts off with the... actually, I need to get this hair out of my face. This will be perfect to keep this up here. Starts off with the classic shower scene. Like, in case you forgot, the most infamous scene of the original film. Here it is again. And that's a good time for them to transition from the black and white, which is they start this film in, over to the color, which I thought was really cool. Kind of just showing us that it's transitioning from a different time period, that it's 22 years have passed. Smart way to do that. We got Vera Miles returning here to play Lila Loomis. So she did end up marrying her sister's boyfriend, which, I don't know, it's kind of messed up a little bit. She died to try to be with this guy. She risked everything to be with this guy, ended up getting killed. And then she marries him? I don't know. I guess I'm of two minds on that. I'm not sure how I feel about that. It doesn't really matter. She's dead, right? And I don't know. So, what do you guys think about that? About her taking him? We get Robert Loggia. Any Family Guy fans out there? Anytime I hear that guy's name, my brain just starts running through that scene. And Meg Tilly. Oh, Meg Tilly. How beautiful you were. I don't know what she looks like now, so I can't say if she was or were or whatever. But God, she's so hot in this. And so I like that Lila Loomis is in this, or, Lila Crane, whatever. She comes to the courtroom and, is sitting there protesting his release, which is cool. It's good to see. That is what would happen, I would think, if she cared. And she was there. I mean, she got to see Norman as the psycho. It's not like she heard that her sister got killed by this guy. She was coming. She got to witness this dude dressed up as his mother coming at her with a knife. And that guy coming to her rescue. I mean, right there, that's fucking probably why they got married. I mean, after something like that, I think like they could only, you'd have somebody there who knew what you were going through, because he went through as well. He got hit over the head, he saved her or whatever. So I think it makes sense that they ended up together. I'm just saying, I know a lot of people would probably have an issue with that. You gonna take my man once I'm dead? But anyway, so he goes back to this Bates Motel, which this continuity of this series, especially from 2 and 3, is great. I was really surprised. Like, continuity really flows. 2 and 3 really are good companion pieces to one another. Reoccurring characters, same sets, same everything, same actors, awesome stuff. So, damn, you know how much of continuity horror I am, so I was really excited to see that stuff. This is the last place he should have returned, and that's his property. You would think that it would get turned over to the state, which it did, but you think that after 22 years he wouldn't actually have any claim to that real estate, but maybe he does. I don't know fucking real estate, so it just seems like something that he shouldn't possess anymore. I don't know. Because he killed his mother, so then that was passed down to him, so legally he's inheriting what he killed for, which I didn't think was legal. So I don't know what the legal reality of that is, but I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Someone tell me if you know. And I like that he sees himself as a child in the reflection of like the doorknob when he goes to open it, just kind of taking him back. And maybe he's like having a memory of his mother in the house, and he like sees himself as a kid being tormented by her. Just kind of a good reminder of how much this woman fucked him up, So after his little meltdown in the house, seeing himself as a kid, he goes down and he starts working at this diner. He meets the girl, Meg Tilly's character, and he is, finds out she's having this fight with her boyfriend. It's all a big setup, obviously, because her and her mom are trying to put him back in the loony bin. And he invites her back to the hotel where he's going to put her up for the night. He then runs into Mr. Toomey, which that name immediately takes me to the Langoliers. But the dude who plays this guy, he's great, man. I love him. He's just fucking funny as hell. I've always liked that actor. That's the dude in Die Hard 2, right? Die Harder. Die Harder. Jesus Christ, worst title ever. But he ends up taking her up to his house because he doesn't want her staying in this, drug-filled, sex-filled hotel that this guy's running. Which this guy's like trying to be nice to him the best that he can. Mr. Toomey's trying to be nice, and Norman is such a dick. But he doesn't want that kind of place. Norman is old-fashioned. Even though he's a murderer, he's very proper with how he thinks about things. So thinking that his place has turned into some kind of place where the people take prostitutes and do drugs, he's like, oh hell no, an adult motel, as Norman aptly names. And then the fact that Lila sends her daughter in to hang out with a psychopath who she's trying to prove is still a psychopath and will kill again just kind of shows you the headspace she's in. She's so overwhelmed by revenge, the desire for revenge, that she'll send her daughter in to spend the night in the house that she was almost murdered in, right in front of the hotel where her sister was murdered in. This chick, wow. Could you imagine wanting revenge that bad to where you're fucking sending your kid in? What an idiot. What an idiot. And I like how she also knows of all of this, right? So Meg Tilly's character knows of all of this, and she is looking for a knife in the house to cut her sandwich that Norman makes her, because he makes her milk and sandwich just like he makes Marion. And she's like, you got a knife? And he goes and she's like, oh, here's a knife. And she hands him the butcher knife. What's her plan in this moment? If he stabs me to death, he'll go back to jail? She's tempting fate, right? She's trying to push him into losing his sanity. Why would you hand him the knife? What's the ultimate goal here exactly? Just to prove that he's still crazy? If he goes crazy, he's probably going to kill you. So I'm not sure what their plan is exactly, because if you think about it for a second, okay, so he either is crazy still and he's going to kill you, or you're going to drive him to madness and he's probably going to kill you. So the plan is not well thought out at all. But they want him in jail, and this is the best way for them to do it in their mind, I guess. And she pretends that she doesn't know who he is, and she says that someone at the diner had mentioned something, who ends up being Norman's mother, by the way. Which I'm guessing, I don't know if that actually happened or not, but maybe she's just trying to ward off, because she's the real mom. She's trying to ward off any girls from talking to him. Who knows? But he admits to her that he stuck some strychnine in his mom's teeth, he does. And he's like, but I'm fine now. And then she's like, all right, well, I'm going to leave. And he's like, no. And he begs her to stay. And she's like, that bad, huh? Okay, I guess I'll stay. Nobody ever would be like, oh, you murdered somebody and you just got out? Oh, yeah, I'll stay just because you begged. But she's got to be there. So that feels like it should have, tipped him off. And then he goes to the diner and he's in there, and there's the note on the wheel that she sticks up there, fucks with his head. And Mr. Toomey's in there, and he's being a total dick. Holy shit, man. Ya loony! I think the guy's great, though. He's so funny. And Meg Tilly's got a body double here, right? like Meg Tilly's hot, and I have no doubt that she has a great body like that. But I don't know. They never show her face, so I have to guess that that is a body double that to do her nude scenes, which is a shame. But in reality, what does it really matter, right? You got to see a naked body. You can connect it to the character. It's all fantasy anyway, so who gives a shit? Norman's house has become a popular hotspot for teenagers to go fuck in his basement. Hey, baby, let's go fuck in a basement of some psychopath. That gets all the chicks hot. I must have missed that one. Oops. And yeah, so we know throughout this movie, just someone's fucking with Norman's mind, which is, like, I get it, like, he deserves it, but man, it just seems so fucking mean, because I actually feel bad for him in this movie, which, as I said, his character arc throughout this series is wild to me, because he goes from the victim to the villain, to the victim, to the villain, it's all over the place. I kind of, like, never know how to feel about him. Mostly, I just feel like he's a victim. He's just insane. This really does make a good argument for the insanity plea, because Norman really is fucking crazy. And the cop tells her about his past, about Norman's past. It's like, man, you do not need to be hanging out with this guy. You gots to get out of here. And then we get the reveal that she is the daughter of Lila about a 1 hour in, which gives us enough time to be like, oh shit, that's happening, and then, kind of hash out the rest. So I thought that was smart to keep it right around the end of the second act, like the beginning of the third. That creates a lot of really cool tension. It also says that he killed six other people, besides her. So we got 5 people besides Marion Crane. So his mom, the boyfriend, and then 3 others, which we kind of get to see 2 in Psycho Part 4. So I don't know. I guess that kind of adds up. But I don't know if I can count for the other person. And Mary really feels for him throughout this movie, and I understand. Like, she goes in, she tries to prove that he's, still crazy, and she just sees this man who's, as she says, like, he's trying so hard. And I get that. Like, I'm like, oh man, like, he really is. He's pushing so hard to be like, no, they know this shit isn't real. And I don't know. I kind of get where she's coming from when she's fighting back against her mom. Her mom must just be, like, blown away by all of this. Being like, are you fucking kidding me? You're on Norman's side now? Like, I can't even imagine what her mom would be thinking in that. And, I mean, Mary really tries to help him as best, there you go, as best she can. They have to dig up his mom to prove to him she's dead again. I think that if you have to dig up his mom to prove that she's dead, Norman needs to go back, because you've literally spent the last 22 years trying to convince him his mother's dead. And if he's only been out like a week and he's already having to have his mother's body exhumed to prove her death, Doc, I'm guessing the doc just is trying to save face here and not have some kind of taint on his reputation. But I think it's time to call it, call it a failure and put him back in, because that's pretty ridiculous. Lila Loomis's death. Wow, now this is pretty shocking, because she's like a main character from the first movie, and bringing her back to kill her is intense. And in addition to that, her death is graphic as fuck. She gets a knife through the mouth as she's opening her mouth up, and it comes out the back of her neck. It is awesome. It is a fantastically gory, graphic kill, and I adore it. So definitely ramping up the violence to meet the 80s slasher tone of the times, which is smart, because you have to appeal to the audience that you're catering to, right? At the times that the movie was released in. And so So Mary had been dressing up as his mom to try to trick him, and so she goes up and dresses like his mom again to try to to try to tell him, like, Norman, like, no. And he's just so gone by that point. It's just like you can't get to him at all. And she freaking, the doc sneaks up behind her and is like, got her, because he believes it's her. And she turns around, stabs him, and then he falls off the railing onto the knife, which I wish it wouldn't have hit like the post. I wish it would have just hit the ground and impaled him, kind of like Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, when he falls on the blade through his head. That would have been so great if she stuck him and then it just like popped through. But it's same kind of concept. It just looked kind of silly the way it hit the post there, but I think that, yeah, it should have just hit the ground, although you couldn't have got as good of a shot. So I think that's why they did it. I'm sure maybe they thought of it, and then they went and they looked at it and they're like, we can't get the right angle, his body's gonna disappear, no one's gonna be able to see it, it's gonna be tough. Or maybe not, I don't know. And then she's like, takes the knife and starts attacking Norman, and she's just stabbing him in the shoulders, stabbing him in the head. He tries to grab the blade and grip it, and she yanks it out and cuts his hands up. I thought that was excellent. And he's trying to take her down to the fruit cellar. They get down to the fruit cellar, and she thinks it's him that killed her mother because she finds him in the coal pile back there. So she goes to stab him. Just as the cops run in, they shoot her to death. She gets framed for all the murders, which is pretty badass ending. And then, well, not an ending, I guess we get the big ending. So it's like a lot of twists, a lot of turns. And then the mom comes in and is like, I gave you up to my sister, I couldn't have you at the time, blah, blah, blah. And he fucking, I don't know, man. And it is the actress, because she's sitting right there. She leans forward. I don't know how this was done. And he takes like a snow shovel or something, and he just whacks her ass on the back of the head. Holy shit, it is extreme. It's awesome looking. It is intense. And then he takes her body upstairs into the freaking, in mom's room. So he has a new mother's body. And it all starts over again. And he turns the sign on, and he walks out onto the stairs, and this, like, you know, the clouds are behind him or whatever. And mom's up in the window, and then fucking credits. Awesome. That's awesome. Such a great movie. I adore this. And he's now killed 2 moms for the price of 1. So there you go, guys. Psycho 2. What a great fucking sequel. A sequel that no one ever talks about. A sequel most people I know who, everyone knows of Psycho. So most people I talk to, they're like, they made a second. I'm like, they made 4. Well, technically that fucking remake, which, by the way, I'm not doing. I don't give a fuck, dude. That is just, no. I'm not rewatching the same movie. That's dumb. Maybe I'll get to it one day, but not right now. I'm just not in the mood. But yeah, what a fantastic sequel. And this is supposedly one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite movies, and he prefers it to the original, and I totally understand why. So yeah, there you go. Let's move on to Psycho 3.